Welcome to episode 102 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy is a podcast featuring conversations with Canadian theatre makers. If you like what you hear, I hope you'll subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to drop me a line, you can find Stageworthy on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at StageworthyPod. And you can find the website at stageworthypodcast.com. If you're looking for me, you can find me on all the usual platforms at Phil Rickaby. My guest this week is Jeff Ho. Jeff opens Trace, directed by Factory Artistic Director Nina Lee Aquino, starting November 16th and running until December 3rd at the Factory Theatre in Toronto. Are you doing a dress tonight, or are you...
Tech dress tonight.
Tech dress.
Dress rehearsal tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah.
Same thing.
the line at a certain point gets so blurred that... Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, but we're at that phase now where we're running. Mm-hmm. So that's great. It feels like,
kind of what you need at a certain point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get everything seamless. We just had our first, tech run yesterday. Our Q to Q was the first time we got it all done one day. I mean, it's also a short show, so it was great to just...
When you did the Q to Q, were you did you get a run in?
No. We got the Q to Q all within one day, and then the next day we just got a run in and notes ready, and today we got to work on bits, and then a run after this. Yeah.
Nice. So the show is Trace.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what is Trace about?
Absolutely. Trace is about 3 generations of women in my family.
Mm-hmm.
It's about various memories, mysteries, and myths that have sort of trickled down from these women down to me. Mm-hmm. And it's really, truly a tracing of how I am today.
Okay.
How did I come to be this way? And also what is unsaid or unspoken of in my own family that I wish to speak about.
Are there a lot of things that are unspoken?
One particular one, and that was sort of the impetus for Trace. My great-grandmother had 2 sons during World War II. She was from China. She had to flee to Hong Kong when the Japanese invaded, and she had 2 sons. Along the way, her youngest son disappeared, and shame and sort of familial guilt and all of that. It's a really thorny subject in Chinese culture. So great-grandma never spoke of her son again. But we only heard about him in whispers and other relatives being like, so what happened? And great-grandma just always refused to speak about it. Up until her deathbed, being like, where is my son? And so this has just been a mystery the whole time. We don't even know his name.
Wow.
Yeah, but we know she had another son and just sort of...
You don't know what happened. You just
don't know,
because she even at the end never spoke about it.
We all have our own rumors. My mother has her own rumor. My grandma has her own guesses.
Yeah.
But there certainly was something about the Japanese. There was certainly something about fleeing, and in that movement, something happened. Whether it was, and in my own research, the initial pieces of writing for Trace was a little more about the wartime, really about Japanese invasion, and sort of this unspoken Chinese Holocaust, basically, that happened. They set up internment camps called Unit 731, where they performed, human experimentation on children. They infected rats with plague and set them free in villages and stuff like that. But we don't hear of it, and it's actually erased in most and all Japanese textbooks.
Yeah, it is a thing that we talk a lot about the German Holocaust,
absolutely.
and not a whole lot about what happened in Asia at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that was to do with when the war was over. A lot of the Americans and a lot of the Japanese scientists that were part of these experiments, they got amnesty in exchange for their test results. The cure for gangrene came out of that, for example. Yeah.
It's interesting because this is not the first time the topic of the Japanese invasion of China has come up. Yeah. I was talking with Diana So.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a big thing for her.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I sometimes, as you talk about it, I wonder if there is the fact that it's not talked about is there's a bit of a a racist aspect of it. Because we talk about the Jewish Holocaust because they're essentially white. Yeah. They're an acceptable race, and just after the war, to be from Asia was not quite acceptable.
No, racist. Yeah, I don't know if racist, but I certainly see it as who were the victors and who were the voices that ended up surviving.
Sure,
and it's also cultural. China simply has this culture of what is dark, we've just swept under the rug. We will not talk about it, and we will simply rise and prove ourselves in the future. Hence, China's reaction now.
Yeah.
And, many of their big grandiose statements, political gestures. It's only been less than 100 years.
Yeah. Is it? And as this is not just it's not just family that does this. It's like as a nation, that's the sort of the Chinese.
Well, and that's a generalization. I'm sure.
Of course. Yeah.
But certainly, there's a culture of Zen Buddhism, the philosophy of Confucius and everything. There's so much about going with the flow.
Yeah.
And if something's just bad, you don't talk about it. Yeah. You just don't talk about it, and you move on, and you live, and you survive. Survival is at the core of the culture, especially with, even with the internal wars, the civil wars that happened leading up to World War II or coming out of World War II. It's just all still so fresh,
So, how old were you when you started working on this?
I was 21, yeah.
Okay. Had it been something that had been playing on your mind before then, or did you just one day sort of say, this is going to be the topic of my new show?
No, it was something that had been sort of permeating through just all of my life. Just it was always used sort of as a guilt tactic by my mother. Okay, you think I don't appreciate you? Your great-grandma had a second son, and she went away. You want me to disappear you like that too? So it was a familial guilt tactic. But that always stuck with me. It was that happened. And then similarly, sort of, with my mother, I ran away from home at a young age to pursue theater. I ran away to Montreal, did university first, or 2 years of university, and then went to NTS. And all of this was without the consent of my family.
Okay.
And so in some ways, and I'm not equivocating myself with my disappearance with that son's disappearance, but there's always a void that's left when a child's gone. And so I just became sort of obsessed with the idea of how do I reappear in the face of all the fire that's happened in the family?
Yeah.
And, does it mean that part of the tracing is my own mother took my brother and I, single mom again, from Hong Kong to Canada to give us the better life.
Right.
And then I fucking fucked up.
No, it's a podcast. You can swear.
Okay.
It's good.
Yeah, I totally
We don't have to worry about that. So, this is as good a time as any because I usually like to talk to people about why theater.
Right.
So, for you, what drew you to theater? And what made you run away from home to join the theater?
Oh, gosh. It's my mother's fault. I mean, I started classical piano. That was my first artistic expression.
Okay.
And I started piano at 5. And I was put into it for the discipline, for the hard work. And there's a huge sort of rumor, and, more and more science is proving it, but that classical music is actually very related to math.
Sure. Yeah.
And so my mother thought, this is a great idea for him to do. And when I first came to Canada, I was still learning English, working on those skill sets. I was just stuck with the piano the whole time. I got kind of socially shy. And so my mother thought it was a good idea to let me try for an arts program in a high school, Unionville High School's Arts York program. And I did. I had never really done drama up to that point. I got in somehow. And so then I spent 4 years of high school doing theater. And we all have one of those brilliant teachers that really is this shining light, this sort of doorway that's you can do it. Mr. Beeman, he totally just gave me all the resources I needed. I was obsessed with acting theory. I read all the books on theater at our local library, Unionville Library. And he just pushed me and pushed me and pushed me and gave me the space to learn in a high school setting. And so I was so privileged that way.
That's so rare in a high school setting to be encouraged that way.
Absolutely. And so if not for this art school, and my mom thought, this will be a great way for him to prepare him to be a lawyer. so that I can speak better. But then I fell in love with it. I fell in love when we started working on Greek tragedy, on comedies, all of that, just like sort of dipping my toes in. And then grade 12 came along, and I remember having a really frank conversation with my teacher, just to, like, do you think this is viable? Do you think it's possible? And he's like, I can't promise you anything. But he was like, you certainly love it enough.
Yeah.
And so he just told me to pursue what I loved. And so I did. And grade 12 was split between auditioning for piano schools, and then academic things, and then theater schools.
Right.
Yeah. And eventually, I didn't get a call back to Ryerson. I didn't do too well in a lot of my theater school auditions. And one night in April, I picked up my bags, went to Montreal. Concordia University was having their auditions. I didn't even apply properly. I got to the doors, 6 a.m. in the morning, first time in Montreal alone. Got to the campus, had all my papers, had $60 in cash to be like, this is the fee. Can you please just let me audition? I auditioned. I got in. And then that was it. I knew I had to do it.
So... at what point did you tell your mom that you were auditioning for theater schools, and how did she react?
Oh, I didn't tell her. Even getting into NTS. I got in first, got through the 3 months of, waiting and then the callbacks. And after I got into NTS, I sat her down, had a PowerPoint prepared, and was like, these are the reasons this would be smart to go to this school or whatnot. And I was like, you're not allowed to say anything now, Mom. I'm going to this school.
Did she say anything?
Yes. I said, Mother, I got into the National Theatre School. And she said, how? So that was the first thing she said. But after a little while, and the great thing was Grey's Anatomy was on at the time. Yeah. And so Sandra Oh was a very public figure of the show and a public figure of the school. And also being Asian, I think, helped. And so Mama was like, she connected the links between, NTS, Sandra Oh, it's possible, And so from that moment onwards, things have started warming up, and our relationship has been better than ever. Yeah.
But there was a period where you went away to theater school. Like
it was hell.
You ran away to theater school, and you didn't like.
Yes, she took away my money. Okay. She took away my money. She would not support me in any way. The first month or two of being in Montreal, I slept on people's floors. I remember.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how I had the guts to do it. Looking back now, I'm like, I don't know how.
Desperation is an amazing thing.
Yeah,
if you know that there's no other way that you're going to be able to do this, you do what you have to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
And before learning about fear too much. You know what I mean?
You have to do that kind of thing when you're young.
Exactly.
Right?
I feel like now I'd be too scared.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, after about 25 or so, you're probably not going to be like, I'm picking up everything and I'm going to...
Exactly.
Just in case I get in.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it was really, 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 really difficult, I remember. And, it was all out of love. And I know this.
Yeah.
And at first it was just like, oh, why won't you let me do it? And all of that. And the more I'm growing up, the more I'm realizing, she really was just looking out for me. She really just wanted me to lead a stable, in her eyes, what would constitute a good, secure, stable life.
Of course.
So that I wouldn't have to struggle the same way she had to.
Yeah.
Like so many immigrant stories. But at the same time, she is a fiery woman, so fights were just not calm. So that also didn't help much,
It's not uncommon because I've talked to a few people of different, either usually second generation, immigrants, and people who go into the theater often have a similar story. And people who aren't immigrants, they sometimes have a similar story of the battle with their parents. About 50-50 of the people that I've spoken to have that sort of either my parents were so supportive to, they hate the fact that I'm doing this. They still ask me when I'm going to get a real job,
Yeah.
Has your mom come to see your work?
Yes, ever since graduating. Now that, she lives in the GTA, she's still in Markham. She surprises me. I tend to not invite her to shows because I'm embarrassed or shy or, still dealing with it. But most recently she came to Prince Hamlet, unannounced. And various other shows she's come to. And she always comes at a time where I don't expect her.
Okay. So
because if I knew she was there, she knows I would freak out.
Yeah. So it's not like she comes to like opening or anything. She just sort of sneaks her way in.
No, but I'm trying to get her into this opening.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you think she's like, does she know what this play is about?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of the writing initially was done through interviews with her.
Okay.
And so she knows what I'm writing about. She's shy about it. She doesn't quite like that her name's in it or that I'm embodying her. But at the same time, I remind her it's memory, and memory oftentimes will be fiction. So if we all just approach it like it's a story now, a story with the bones of true history, then that would be easier for her to digest.
Yeah.
And I think she would just be... Oh, yeah, I'm already feeling like, I think, like it's everything she invested in me as a child. This is my writing, this is my classical piano, this is my acting. It is everything she did actually provide for me.
Okay.
And this is my way of being able to acknowledge.
Nice.
Thank you for being that wall.
Yeah.
Thank you for making it so hard for me that now I have a play about you.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because some people, they probably, it was so hard to do this. My parents didn't want me to do this. But if you were just able to do it, would you have fought so hard for it?
Exactly. That was the thing. I feel like that initial rejection from my mother was the strongest rejection. The person who loves you the most unconditionally in this world. Yeah. If I can surpass that rejection, nobody else's matters.
No,
truly,
of course,
nobody else's matters.
Yeah.
And so that's just been a great thing. Like NTS, I had to audition twice before getting in. And so like that first time I didn't get in, I was like, okay, well, I'll just try again.
To have that attitude going into auditions, any kind of auditions, that's like... Yeah. Some people put so much into every audition and every time they're heartbroken, but to be able to be like, well...
Yeah. It doesn't make the heartbreak easy. You still feel the heartbreak. Sure. I still certainly get disappointed if I don't get a role. But at the same time, it's like, it's just a little easier to bounce back to be like, oh, this wasn't as difficult as when I first started.
Yeah. The process of writing this show, you were saying that a lot of it was interviews with your mother.
Yeah.
Is it verbatim or have you massaged? What is the process of writing it been like?
Massaged.
Yeah.
The interviews with the mom was really to collect as many memories, as many testimonials about the rest of her family, how she came to be, how much she remembers of great grandma. Because beyond my great grandmother, we really don't know what the family line is. Sure. She was the last surviving member, and from her moving to Hong Kong, that was the beginning of our roots in ways. Okay. Right. So. A lot of just stories of like, how was great grandma when she was young? How did she behave around you? And hearing through her words what she thought of herself, what she thought of her own parents, and trying to capture the cadence of it. I always went with my partner, and he's an Anglophone, so my mother always felt compelled to articulate these stories in English. Okay. And when she couldn't, then she would go into Cantonese. But because of hearing it in English, I was able to hear all these really horrific stories as simply as possible. For example, she had this one story that just really struck me. Like, your uncle, he swam and swam and swam. Then he was safe. And one can imagine the entire process. One could then make a piece out of that entire thing. But in just those few words, she told the story. So how do I then capture all of these traumas, 100 years of history, and as a succinct way as possible, and as musical as possible? Because Cantonese is a tonal language, and so trying to capture that in English, it's hard.
That is hard, and
it's very hard.
Like how
I don't know if I'm successful.
Well, I'm curious how you approach that, like English, which can be a more atonal language,
absolutely,
with one that is based so much on tone.
Totally. I write with accent in mind.
Okay.
That certainly helps in terms of just knowing sort of the beats of Cantonese. Everything's quite staccato. What you can say in 4 characters, for example, needs to be explained in a paragraph.
Yes.
So how do I try to do the same thing with English? How to explain a deep concept or a statement in as little words as possible? And that's a challenge with an accent in mind. Yeah. So that's definitely been part of the challenge. And I just keep on throwing myself at it and then cutting it to as little words as I can possibly use. With the guidance of, a dramaturg, director to sort of go like, okay, this isn't clear whatsoever. Yeah. Okay, now this is clear enough.
having somebody with you to fill that role is so important.
Totally. Yeah.
To point out when when it's not clear or when there could be more.
And it's still happening.
Yeah.
Even from the run yesterday, there are certain cultural concepts that I don't explain. So we were like, do we try to explain it now? Then we add words. Or do we just simply take it out and say the most direct thing? And so, it's a constant negotiation. And so as new years come in and audiences come in, I'm excited to keep on making it clearer and clearer. Yeah.
How did Nina Lee Aquino get involved with this?
So I started writing this piece during my time at NTS in second year. We all have a solo show unit. We had it then. I don't know if the school does it anymore. I was working with Adam Lazarus, who is opening Daughter tonight.
I know.
Solo show. And he taught me solo show. Yeah. And so I had written 2 separate pieces. The one we ended up working on was not Trace. Trace was just this little baby that I was like, oh, I'm actually really excited about this. And Nina was teaching the class under us at that time. And so, again, I don't know how I had the guts back then. I just approached her in the hallway to be like, hey, Nina, now that you're here, I know you have a lunch. Do you want to just come into a studio with me? I have something to read to you. And so I did.
Yeah. It's amazing the things that we'll do when we're younger that we would probably not do now.
Yeah, now I'm like, okay, I should approach artistic directors with cover letters and stuff like that, But back then I was just like, hey, you're here, I'm here.
You didn't know any better. You didn't know any better, and it worked out.
Better. Yes, exactly. I mean, it could have backfired.
It could have
backfired.
You don't know. But it didn't, which is amazing.
So we started working on it from then on, really.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, so if I was in second year, graduate 2012, so 5 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been working on this
5 years.
Sure, on and off with her for 5 years?
Yeah. When I first graduated, literally a month after I graduated, Iris Turcotte and I began working together. She was then company dramaturg still.
Sure.
And so it was this great period of transitioning from coming to Toronto, beginning my acting career, but at the same time, learning writing, learning my own voice as a writer with working with Iris. I would go to her apartment every Wednesday or here, and we would just talk, chat, write. She would read my writing, talk to me, and we did that for a whole year.
Yeah.
It was a masterclass.
Was writing something that you had imagined doing before NTS, or were you thinking of yourself as just an actor?
I wanted to be Sandra Oh 2.0. That's what I wanted.
Okay.
I wanted to be Sandra Oh 2.0. But as I started making my way through everything, I realized, writing has simply always actually been a part of my life. Even at NTS, I had a few publications with Rice Paper Magazine, a Vancouver sort of Asian Canadian magazine. I kept on writing essays for competitions and stuff like that. I won oftentimes. And so I realized, writing was actually something I had always done anyway. And so even the thing I wrote that I read to Nina, it came out as a 25-page poem. It wasn't quite a script or a theater piece, but I had just, it's something I had always done to express myself. And only now do have I realized that, this is actually part of my art.
Yeah. It's interesting because some people, it's interesting that you were always writing and never sort of connected it with theater.
I never connected it. I don't know why. And the more I'm making my way into a writing career now too, I'm surprised I never connected it when I was younger. I guess because I was so hot-headed, wanting to pursue just acting, that I just never even considered the peripheries of what other hats do I wear. Again, without knowing better, when one steps into Canadian theatre, one has to work everything in as many capacities as you can or are good at.
Well, it's interesting because I've mentioned a number of times how the landscape of what's expected in theater has sort of changed. When I was in theater school, we were taught, it was like, you're going to go in, we're training you to go to the audition, get the job, go to the audition, get the job.
Right.
And, if you don't do that, I guess you could write your own thing and do fringe. But it was like, if you did that, you were like the failure. Instead of now, where indie and fringe is like doing stuff yourself is the launching point now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something I didn't quite get. I've done this the festival circuits as an actor and on new pieces, certainly. So I always had an idea of how they felt. But no, I haven't had that opportunity as a writer. And so that is a bit of a scare for myself in just sort of being like, oh, I'm debuting at Factory, directed by Nina, you know? It's a little scary.
Is this your first play that's being put up?
This is my first play that's
okay.
Yes. So that's why, yeah.
I can understand.
Yeah.
I can understand.
I was like, oh, maybe I should have done summer works, or maybe I should have done Fringe. But at the same time, it's where it's at. And even with this play being the first, I have a second already lined up, thankfully. Sure. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's okay. Even I will learn what I need to learn, and I have been learning so much because it's the first time I'm a playwright in a room. Yeah. On top of doing everything else. But that's a learning process that you can only learn on the job.
How do you feel about performing this? Like, when you think, like, when I performed my first solo piece, I was going to vomit that whole day.
Yes. Yeah.
Just out of, like, this is the first time I'm saying these words in front of an audience, and it's me, and it's my words. Yeah. Do you have that, or do you feel more confident?
Oh, I'm absolutely terrified. I'm absolutely horrified, terrified, vomiting, sleeplessness, all of that. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking.
Of course,
The team is incredible, and Nina has had a lot of experiences debuting new playwrights and stuff like that, so I feel supported every step of the way. But it doesn't take away the nerves, and it doesn't take away that exact fear that you're saying. Like, oh my god, these are my words, I'm performing. But also certain liberties can be had in terms of like, okay, I don't like this line anymore, I'm cutting it, done.
That's the kind of freedom that you don't quite realize that you have until you have it.
Yes, exactly, right? Exactly. Especially coming off of Prince Hamlet, being like, oh, well, I can't change this soliloquy no matter, you know?
No.
And this experience of like, oh, wow, this is a certain freedom that I didn't have, but a certain extra pressure because of that freedom.
It's interesting because if you're acting with other people, you can't just like drop a line, but if it's just you...
Yeah, except if it's a cue line
or something like that, but for the most part, you can...
I can just save myself and no one will ever know.
No, nobody will know.
And so that is a certain freedom. And that's why I am really excited for audiences, because I feel like part of this really will be off of the energy of an audience.
Yeah.
And right now, everyone's heard it so many times that we're just at that phase where...
because there's, after a certain point, hearing it so many times, you wonder like... Is it still funny? Is it still working?
Is it clear?
Yeah,
exactly.
We've all heard it. We know what it means. And you don't really know until
the audience
is there.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm at that point, you know?
Yeah.
It's terrifying. But at the same time, like, it will happen.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of teachers from NTS, I remember saying certain things that only now I remember and cherish. Back then I was like, oh, that will never apply to me.
Of course.
For example, Guillermo Verdecchia at school, he had said, like, approach every gig you ever get as just another experiment. You know, like, it's not the end of your life.
Sure.
No one's going to die. You do this one. You tried what you needed to try. You move on and you try something else.
Yeah.
Or if you feel like you want to try that again, try it again.
Yeah.
But it's a life in the arts and not just, you know... But for me, because it is a debut, I do feel the culmination of like, oh my god, I have so much to prove.
Well, it's been 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Has there been something that's surprised you in this process?
Yes. How, for me, language is just music, or how I approach the writing. We talked about the Cantonese already. But all of those different mixtures, it's all music. To me, and how we're finding, because we dialogue with the pianos, the men are represented through all of the piano voices, and I speak all the women's voices. I embody both as I play the piano and the men, but we're finding that, like dialogue, the more I can just seamlessly come off a trill, right into a line, back into a music line. If the intentions are clear, even when I'm playing the piano, that's all we need. And so I'm really being surprised by sort of the marriage of music and language.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that, I feel like we just talked about experiments. That's my experiment this time around.
That idea of like the men being represented by the piano and embodying the women, at what point did that come about in the process?
Last year.
Okay.
It's a more recent thing. We had a point where the piano represented just all the periphery characters, so men, women alike. At some point, it just was a clarifying factor for listeners because the piano can speak intentions. The body can help translate what the piano's saying, but it can never say direct, literal meanings, such as gender, such as, and so it came to a point where we tried it as a two-hander. Just to have an extra pianist, and I got to just act.
Okay.
And from that, we came to realize, just having all of the piano voices play all the men just helps clarity, and also then helps specify sort of the different memories. Anytime the women are talking to each other, I'm just in full solo show mode. I'm just fully acting with myself. Anytime I'm playing with the piano, we know it's with a man. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever worry, like embodying somebody like your mother, who is a very strong, fiery woman? Did you ever have concerns about embodying your mother? Was that something you shied away from at all?
No.
No?
No. I am my mother's son.
Okay.
Yeah. I am, like her, I know her rhythms, I know her stuff, and I'm not, I am being her, but at the same time, I'm not her.
Right.
And so, it's acting. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other women? Like, because the other women you don't know.
Familiar. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Great grandma, I knew up until I was 8 years old. So that one is more of definitely, fabrication and fiction. But again, based off of the interviews with the mom, sort of just taking on those personality tics. And my grandma's still alive. I just saw her Sunday. My brother just got married, so she came from Hong Kong. Usually she lives in Hong Kong. And so I observed, I watched. Yeah. And yeah.
Does your grandmother know about this?
I don't know. I don't speak to my grandma nearly as much. When I saw her on Sunday, she just said to me, "You are taller now." And then we shook hands.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's our level of affection. And conversation.
Well, it's difficult if you see somebody just at weddings and that sort of thing.
Totally.
You're literally a world away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I do worry, not necessarily worry, but in this current political climate, I do ask myself, is it cool that I'm playing women? That's certainly something I ask myself. Is it correct that I'm embodying women? Those questions. I feel because it is women in my blood and, I still do play both genders, but that we just simply hear the women speak. I feel like there's some leeway there, but it is something like performing gender is something that's really, really interesting to me, especially coming off of Ophelia. I just, it's something that I'm fascinated with. Yeah.
What is it about it that fascinates you?
I grew up with a lot of films and Chinese opera. Okay. And in Chinese opera tradition, the men played the women.
Yes.
And even films that, again, my mother showed me, they were like famous Hong Kong film director WWII. He had a film about, the life, the training, the life of a female impersonator in the Chinese opera. And I remember that striking me. And also sort of stereotypes of even being as a gay man, a queer man, sort of, if you're Gaysian, you're the feminine one in a relationship, And so that's just simply something that's always been in me, even in school. For one of my Theatre Ontario monologues, sort of the graduating showcase, I tried to do "Butterfly," which was a story about a man disguised as a woman for years. And so, I'm not quite sure. It's something that's I saw a lot of when I was a child. And it's something that seems to come up a lot. The opportunities seem to come to me. I played transgendered, and again, that's something that I reflect a lot on. Is that correct nowadays? I did it 3 summer works ago, and Unknown Soldier, and back then it wasn't. It was about Chelsea Manning, so it wasn't quite at the level of awareness we are now. And I wonder if it is right anymore.
That's a really interesting thing to think about, because we are very much at a different place than even 3 years ago.
Absolutely.
Where there's a lot of,
absolutely.
There's outcry about men playing transgendered characters.
And rightfully so. If those performers are there, they should play the part.
Absolutely. But this is kind of different. This is not.
Yes, and that's the thing. And this is sort of like, all the different facets of me that have come to become me. I speak the women and I play the piano and the men.
And one could argue, could anyone else play your mother?
Yes, so we have been having discussions, Nina and I, in preparation
really? Okay.
for like, how about if it gets published? What happens if some other company wants to pick it up and you're not available to do it? How are we going to change it? And I was like, a woman can play this, a man can play this. I feel like I want to make it so that this play can be performed by either gender, but there are certain skill sets that need to be met for this play. Classical pianist training at a certain level, must be able to speak Cantonese, and can hold a solo show. As an actor.
And some sleight of hand, I think, if I saw Twitter. A little bit of some sleight of hand.
Yeah, but that's sort of like production by production. Like, they want sleight of hands. It's just it's like there's a lot of smoking in this show. Great grandma always was a smoker. So, if cigarettes fly from somewhere or whatever, I'm happy with that too. But for this production, it's pretty bare. Nina's aesthetic is really minimal and start naked season. And so she just wanted cigarettes to appear and disappear.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. It's a really clean way to do it.
Yeah.
Interesting to think about specifying that anybody could play the role, could play that part. Because I think that a lot of times people get hung up on, no, this is how it was done in the original.
Right.
Rather than sort of just opening things up and being whatever works for you.
Yeah. And that's
within these confines.
Yeah. Even the music. I've chosen music that I've played through my childhood, or are songs that my family loves, pieces that I've used for competitions. And Nina asked, do you want the same music for a future production if somebody else picks this up? And I said, no, I just want the songs to be close to that pianist's heart. Yeah. It's about, communicating the soul.
Sure.
And that's something that I really got to learn from Ravi last year with Ophelia, was that I had a lot of qualms about, oh God, this is a really problematic character in the canon. It's a difficult part too. How do I portray it respectfully? And then he just said, fuck respectfully. This is what was written.
Yeah.
You gotta throw yourself at it. Yes, you're a man. We will never forget that watching you.
Yeah.
But just go for the heart of what she's going through, and we will go there with you. And yeah, and even through that, like, there were some women who were really uncomfortable with me playing Ophelia. And then there were some women who were like, it felt so good to watch all the shit I go through every day put on a man's body. Yeah. And so that's sort of exciting in terms of performing gender for me, is that this is my choice. Yeah. This is how I've chosen to portray it. And like all shows, the interpretation at the end of the day is up to the audience.
And what's interesting about, when you were playing Ophelia and those two different attitudes, at least people had, like, they left discussing that choice, and they left whether they disagreed or agreed, they were talking about it.
Exactly.
Which I think we do rarely in the theater. A lot of times theater's very nice. Yeah. And nobody gets offended. Yeah. And because it's nice, there's nothing to talk about after. But
totally.
I fucking love when I'm leaving the theater and everybody is just like talking and debating and like just discussing the content and all of that.
Yeah. And so that was very, very, very exciting to be a part of for that.
When you were approached to play Ophelia, what was your reaction to that?
What the fuck? Really? What? Yeah, it certainly was a surprise. I don't know if it's kosher to say it, but yeah, I was a replacement. Sure. So it was a last minute casting choice on Ravi's part. He didn't even audition me. I didn't read for anything. It sort of was just like let's just go for it. And so I joined the cast quite late into the process. Wow. And got thrown into it. Wow. That's really it.
Wow. How did the cast do with that? Because, especially if it's a last minute
they already had workshops and stuff like that too with the original actor. Everybody took it with such grace. The thing with that was there was so much intersectionality of so many different identities. Sure. And the core one for me in that process was ability. Really. That was at the forefront for me. Yeah. Learning how to work and to shed my own preconceptions of ability. What is an ableist rehearsal room like? Yeah. What is it like to work with interpreters being there all the time? What is it like to realize that, being able to hear Shakespeare's work has been a privilege all my life. That for the first time we got to share it with an audience that never got to. to get that story, to receive that story
Right.
the way they need to. And so that was huge for me. The intersectionality of race, gender, all of that. It was mind blowing for me. I'm a young artist. You know, I was 26 at the time. Still am 26.
Yeah.
And so that opportunity was just, I'm so grateful for it.
When you're working in a room where there's people who are both hearing and deaf, did you pick up any sign language, or did you have to go through?
Yeah, like we did individual research, and Dawn, who played Horatio, was just so patient with, like, you know, I made stumbles, certainly. I had my own ignorances.
Yeah.
But she always approached us with generosity, patience, and an open heart, and a willingness to educate. It's not her job to educate.
No.
It is my own ignorance that I have to deal with. But she was there to educate. And even with Ravi's direction, at some point, we completely scrapped the second movement to redo it, because Dawn said, if this is for a non-hearing audience, this wouldn't make sense. This wouldn't. So we all had to shed our own preconceptions, and we all had to learn to adapt to one another.
Yeah. Interesting, because, you know, if you come from a hearing world, that you would never even think that something wouldn't work.
Exactly.
In that way.
Exactly. So it was truly, and then to have audiences wave at us. And,
that's always a new, but like once you know what's happening, you can take it the same way that you would take applause that you could hear.
Yeah. Exactly. Truly, like, and then also to get to work with like some of my idols, being a theater student, like that was also a wild ride. Like Christine Horn, she's incredible. I've always just been the biggest fan. And to know that I had to do the nunnery scene with her, oh my god!
How did you even like? Okay, so. How do you? So I'm sure that you were having some fanboyish experiences while you were rehearsing.
Yeah, and she had a baby. Oh my God. Like she just gave birth and came right into rehearsal. So it was like she had so much life to go through, and the mere fact of Hamlet to go through. Yeah, that I was really shy. To be honest, I was really shy. It wasn't really until tech and previews and performances that I got to shed that a little bit.
It can be really hard to work with people that you've like idolized in that way. Absolutely. And patience. Learning self-forgiveness, to not be like, oh God, I'm not, you know, I will one day be able to match her or whatever, like all those self things that one goes through, right? Yeah. But they were so kind. And Ravi as a director has been one of the shining moments of working with the director in Canadian theater for me. He's so open. He truly is the most collaborative director I've ever worked with. Great. That's awesome. Yeah. In terms of, this show, it's running for, how long is the run?
Till December 3rd. Yeah.
And once it's done, do you imagine taking it somewhere else? Do you imagine continuing to perform it?
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to. The great thing is it requires 2 pianos and 1 actor. That's it. And a set, of course. But that's configurable. That's, quite open. I would love to tour it. There are certain theaters that I have in mind with a great Chinese population. Sort of, Vancouver is a spot that would be fantastic for this show. So certainly I'm working with a few people to try to get it out. And we'll see. I mean, because it is the first and because my name isn't quite there yet, it is one of those things of like, let's see what the press is
you can only wait until after people have seen it before. Like, you can imagine.
Exactly.
But you can't actually do until it's seen.
Yeah. So some patience with that. But certainly, like, if this piece has a second life, I'll follow it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's a show that you can take with you, it's sort of a nice thing to have to be like,
totally.
I can just sort of show up and do the show.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And beyond this, I don't imagine I'll want to write a solo show ever again. I certainly don't want to write something that I'm performing in again. And so the next few pieces already I have in mind, or in like heading to production, I'm already like, no, I'm just play right now.
I'm going to give you a warning, because I felt the same way before I performed a solo show.
And then everybody wanted more?
I wanted more.
Okay.
Having performed it.
Right.
Before I performed it, I was terrified of it.
Right.
And then after I performed it, first performance didn't count. I was just getting through it.
Yes.
Second performance, when I was in complete command of everything, I was like, I have to keep doing this.
Wow.
Just suddenly everything shifted and I was like, I want to continue to create, other stuff, but also I can't imagine not doing this.
Right. I look forward to either feeling that or, You
never know.
I will see.
Know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that in a week,
Yeah.
I'll call you up and I'll be like, you are right.
I would be interested to hear if you're like, oh yes, I definitely want to do this, or if you're never again.
Never. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. It's one of those that, I will see very soon.
Yeah, really soon.
Really soon.
Yeah.
First previews on Saturday. And then opening next Thursday.
It's so good, and of course, if you only do Fringe, you never get that preview situation. It's such a gift to be able to do that before the big game. Yeah. So I sort of envy that, but also it's still the preview still feels like a big it's.
Well,
it's still a big deal.
Exactly.
Course,
it's just that first audience still. Yeah. So, yeah. For me, my own personal opening is Saturday.
Of course,
for sure. Like just having that first audience there. I think once that's out, we'll see. Things are changing.
Are you on the social media? Are you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter, Facebook. Yeah.
What's your Twitter handle?
At KJeffHo.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a website or
no?
Okay.
No website.
Cool.
It's something that people tell me is a good idea. Yeah. So I think one day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for this. It's been amazing.
Phil.